Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics. Republican National Convention, assassination attempt. There could not be more news. We're going to jump into the campaigns. We're going to go in and talk to Jamie Corley, running for Secretary of State. Ms. Corley, welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics.
Hello, good morning.
First of all, I'm sure, like every American, not just Republicans, were stunned by the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. It was like you're watching a moment that looks surreal,
Yeah,
but we lived it in real time. What was your reaction? Where were you when you saw the news?
totally. I was at my house and I had Fox News on, but I think I was doing chores and my phone started blowing up and then I saw right away the breaking news coverage and my heart sank. It was it was terrifying. And the first thing that I did was called family members. And then I actually went over, my dad lives about 15 minutes from me. And I think in those types of moments, you just want to be around your family.
Yeah.
So I just went over there. I brought my dogs and, we ordered pizza and just we watched the news like every other American. It was really shocking. It was really scary.
It was an odd feeling of vulnerability. I know I gave Casey a hug,
Definitely.
and it just was when you think about all the protections around someone in his position, that he could be shot in the ear a quarter inch from killing him. I
Yeah,
mean, it does. It makes all of us feel, I think, a little bit vulnerable.
definitely. And I'm a 96-year-old grandmother who's very politically active and still she's in better shape than I am. And so to talk to her also, she lives 10 minutes from me, about her perspective of living through another assassination attempt and the turmoil was also very very humbling and
Yeah.
very unique to hear her perspective. And she also said, we've got to stop this. And she's a hardcore Republican. And she said, we've got what is going on in America. We've got to come together. Not saying that she's gonna not say Donald Trump is the greatest president ever, or talk about how she has a crush on Jesse Waters, but just the feeling of
But
tension.
Republicans own a chunk of that too. I think it's unfair to
Totally.
say Democrats have. If anything, I mean, Donald Trump has been the linchpin of ratcheting up rhetoric in the political arena.
Well, but at the same time, look at the speeches at the Republican National Convention. He called for unity
Well,
and a
number
lot
one,
of
the Hulk Hogan speech was outstanding. Gussie loved it, my son. The Hulk Hogan
okay.
speech is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life.
Well, the whole convention was amazing. I felt very proud to be a Republican and very proud to be an American. And to have it on the heels of such a what could be and was such a fracturing event and such a
Sure.
scary event. And we have a commander in chief who is very weak. So the
Right.
whole context, as let's just put politics aside for a minute. The whole context of being American, you said it perfectly. It's this feeling of vulnerability. And
Well,
now
let
to
me
be,
do me a favor. Tell folks about Jamie Corley, folks that may not have
oh,
heard of
right.
you
Yeah.
before.
So I'm a fifth generation Missourian. I was born and raised here. My whole family is in Missouri. I joke that as long as I get everyone who I'm related to the polls, I will win. Old, Catholic family. My dad's one of six, and they all live in the same two zip codes.
Where'd you say
And
folks from?
St. Louis area, born and
Gotcha.
raised.
All
Some in the
right.
city, some in the county, all that. So,
I think it's fair to say the law that the Republicans have enacted is a little outside where the mainstream Missourians are, and outside of where Donald Trump is.
100%. I just was listening to Senator Bean on with Jason Rosenbaum, Cape
Amen.
Girardeau. That's right. And
No, no, no,
he
no,
was
no. Not Cape Girardeau. The boot heel, peach orchard.
the boot heel. True.
Yes, ma'am.
So the boot heel, and he was saying, Jason asked him about, do you think this IP, the more progressive one's going to pass? And he said, I do, because when I talk to
Yeah.
people, they don't like no rape and incest exceptions. That is a huge. I have been hearing that. I know that, but but to have more conservative leaders in different parts of the state say that out loud is, I think it's very true, and
So
it's
you have 8 people in this race.
right.
If we could sit down at High Street Pub and I could make an argument that 8 of them could win somehow. How are you
Yeah.
going to win this race?
So when I got in this race, I got in because I didn't see anyone I would vote for, and I saw, my an opportunity for me to be of service to Missouri. And then after that, I called a lot of my old friends from Capitol Hill and, people who've worked in Missouri politics. And I have assembled a rock star team. And we have put together a campaign plan that's based on data and messaging. And, the campaigning is there's an art, but there's also a skill set and there's a science to it. And we feel very confident that as we execute our campaign plan, I have a message and a brand that is resonating with Missouri voters in a way that no one else on the ticket has been able to do.
And you've stepped up, put some of your own money in, right? I mean,
I
you've put
have
a
quarter
chunk of money
million
into this race.
dollars. Absolutely. I'm not Pollyanna-ish. It takes money to win. And I didn't come into this race with a campaign war chest already in place. So when I got in and I knew that I would have to put up my own money. I also want to be clear that that money to me is a sunk cost. It will be spent. It's not there to impress people. So it's being deployed as we speak. I'm going up on TV next week. That's newsy.
Yeah.
We've deployed, we're deploying a 6-figure direct voter contact plan. The people who I'm working with too, they're Missourians, but the person running my campaign was the chief of staff at the RNC and deputy chief of staff for Trump. These are pros. And I'm very grateful that they believe in me and they believe in a pathway to victory. So I'm very excited. I'm also excited to talk to people, right? Like I'm a Missourian. All my friends are Missourians, but to be able to talk to all different types, and I'll just share a story really quickly. I had someone write in asking me, "What are you doing to lower the price of beef jerky?" And at first it makes you chuckle,
I
right?
like that guy.
But I it is so emblematic of inflation is affecting everything.
Everyone.
It was so perfect when I chuckled too, because it is so representative that, when we hear about the cost of everything, we hear about
Mhm.
gas prices. Those have a tendency to go up and then go down, but the price of beef jerky is going up and staying up. When you're on a drive and you go to the gas station and you fill up your soda and you get a snack and you go up to the register, it's like $12 for a snack. So that is what I hear from a lot of people is, inflation is out of control.
No
Um,
doubt, no doubt.
no doubt, the economy. What can the Secretary of State's office do? I'm a business person, so making sure that it's easy to do business in the state and the Secretary of State can play a role in that can reduce costs for business. What does that look like? If you have a clunky Secretary of State's office, you're going to pay your lawyers and compliance people maybe thousands of dollars to
True.
navigate it and figure it out. If it's easy enough that you can just go and do it yourself, it takes 10 minutes to get a certificate of good standing, you don't have to spend that money.
The easier, the less government, the better. Jamie Corley, running for
100%.
Secretary of State. Thank you so much for the time. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, Scott. Talk soon.
Yes, ma'am. We're going to be right back with Pat Contreras, running over in Kansas City in the 7th. Then we're going to bring you at the end of the show the director of the State Fair. State Fair, when the primaries come, you know what's right after the State Fair. We're going to talk to both of them after this.
For more than a century, the St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
America is under attack.
We need to lock the border down. As governor, I will fully support President Trump in securing our border.
Biden's open border means Chinese fentanyl is flowing into Missouri. Now they're coming for our land.
China is the enemy of our country and of the state of Missouri. As governor, I will stop China from bringing fentanyl into our state and from buying up our farmland.
Mike Kehoe will defend our borders and stop China. Paid for by the American Dream PAC.
When you come from nothing, you fight the odds your whole life. Growing up in rural Missouri, my mom waited tables, often working extra shifts to get by. I was the very first in my family to graduate from high school. I've committed myself to helping families just like mine. I'm Crystal Quaid. As governor, I'll battle insurance and drug companies to reduce prices. And I'll continue to lead the fight to guarantee our abortion rights. I'll make sure parents working extra shifts today have children who can beat the odds tomorrow.
Welcome back to Week in Missouri Politics. Again, we're going to take you to another place in the state. We've been taking you outside of our Jeff City studios, into the state, into these Senate primaries that'll be absolutely the most important thing to make up your General Assembly in January. We're going to take you out of Kansas City to the 7th State Senate District. Pat Contreras, welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics.
Scott, it's good to see you again. I know it's been too long. I think last time I was on here was when I ran for state treasurer in 2016,
right.
and good to see you again. Good to see you again.
So, first and foremost, you got big shoes to fill in Greg Razor. What a tremendous statesman.
Greg's Senator Razor, former Senator Razor, is an incredible leader. Huge shoes to fill. I'm deeply honored to have his endorsement and full support. No one knows the needs more than former Senator Razor, the needs of the 7th District, and to have his support is empowering my campaign, and I think it's going to help us win this election here in 3 weeks.
Tell folks about yourself. Where are you from? Where's your kinfolks from?
Absolutely, Scott. So I grew up in Kansas City. I'm a Westport born and raised kid. I lived all over the district here in the 7th. I lived on the west side with my family in the historic Northeast. Currently living down in kind of the Brookside area, but also have family in South Kansas City. So I've had experience and also just family connections with this district. Grew up here. My family, my dad was a union man, so I was raised on union wages. My mother is a lifelong IBEW. My dad was
Nice.
IBEW 1464. My mother was a lifelong public servant. She was at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and still works today for the city. And my grandfather was a World War II veteran. So public service is in my blood.
So what are you hearing out there on the campaign trail when you're knocking on those doors?
Man, Scott, I've knocked thousands of doors, and there's two things that really stand out. One, people are ready for change. They're ready for new leadership, and they're tired of the dysfunction and political bickering in the Senate. And number two, people are ready for women's reproductive freedoms to be back on the ballot and to be enshrined in the Constitution this November. Those are the top things.
I have no doubt in your district, abortion rights are viewed as sacrosanct, and they probably just think it's an anathema what the current law is. But I think even if you get out in the middle of the state, I think there's a sense in Missourians' gut that maybe the current law is a little extreme. And you know, I don't know that your district is where the rest of the state is on abortion, but I don't believe the current law is where your average working Missourian is on abortion in this state. It does feel like there's a lot of momentum in November to change the Constitution.
I think so. And I've been out knocking doors to get those signatures so that we can get it, in fact, on the November ballot. And I'm excited about that possibility. So again, people are excited about something new. They want change, and they also want results, Scott. People are just tired of the same old business as usual politics, and folks go into Jefferson City and then not hearing from them ever again. And I hear it every single day at the doors. And I have a track record of delivering results, which I think is decidedly different. Over the last 7.5 years, I've delivered almost $1 billion worth of economic impact in Kansas City, and that's building schools, that's building hospitals. For example, the first free women's healthcare clinic, primary healthcare clinic in the urban core, workforce training centers on 29th and Troost, and also helping Hickman Mills School District in South Kansas City increase teacher pay and also enhance environments for their students so they could be successful in the future.
So tell folks about what you've done for a living right now.
Yep. So I've been in the construction space here and helping with economic development over the last few years, if you will. Been really focused on just helping with access. I've also worked in and helped support healthcare access components. So I'm on the University Health Board of Directors, where it's the only safety net hospital in the region where I'm helping folks get access to quality healthcare. And also as a board member with the Health Forward Foundation, working to help underinsured and uninsured communities get access to healthcare. But in a previous career, Scott, I was a foreign service officer, a U.S. commissioned foreign service officer as a U.S. diplomat, a trained U.S. diplomat under the both Bush and Obama administration. So I know what it takes to get things done. I know what it takes to work across the aisle to get things done. And I'd be the first trained U.S. diplomat in the legislature.
You'd also be the first Latino to serve in the Missouri State Senate, which I think is an amazing oversight. I know Senator Shapovalov was from Puerto Rico, but you'd be the first male that I personally knew of that would be in the state Senate. That is a tremendous legacy you'd be leaving. And Kansas City has a tremendous Latin community, a long history, very rich.
Yes, Scott, and that's a good point. I grew up on the West Side, which is one of our staple Hispanic communities, and also my grandfather grew up in the Northeast. But we have a growing Hispanic population in South Kansas City and in the Grandview area. And I think that one of the most important components as we think about this historic election is representation matters. It's about time that we put somebody in that office, in that seat, who could represent all of Kansas City. And I think that, that important component, it's a barrier breaking opportunity for us, but it's also an ability for me to go into the Senate and to work across the aisle and help thread those needles and negotiate and get things done for Kansas City, to fight for Kansas City's fair share and more.
Well, I'm going to tell you, there is not a time I go to Kansas City that I don't make my way down Southwest Boulevard for lunch or dinner.
Hey.
I know exactly where my favorite spots are. I know exactly what to order. I'm a fan of, I've been a beneficiary of some of that very rich Hispanic culture. But let me tell you, right now in Kansas City, you talk to someone in Kansas City, they're excited. Kansas City is a city on the rise. There are so many good things happening in Kansas City. It's got to be a fun place to run for office. When I just feel a spirit of optimism when I'm over there.
That's right. No, Kansas City is on a great trajectory, and that's why I want to continue to serve. Public service is in my blood. And when I think about the future potential of Kansas City, I think about the World Cup that's going to be here in 2 years. I also think about the investments that we need to make in infrastructure and development, infrastructure as well as affordable housing. Right now, there's just a cost of living issue that is in Kansas City, and it's not affordable for everyone. I want to make Kansas City affordable for all. I want to make sure that we're protecting our fundamental freedoms and finding unique ways that we could offer also housing for folks that need housing, because we have a housing crisis here in Kansas City. So good things are happening, but we do have challenges, and we need someone, Scott, that has operated at the highest levels of government as well as the highest levels of business, where I've been working, to take that experience to Jefferson City to get things done for Kansas City, because Kansas City wants results. Kansas City wants a leader who is responsive, who is transparent, and who is leading from a place of community and neighborhoods, and that's what I bring that I think is decidedly different in this race.
Well, tell me how you're going to win it.
Well, I'm going to win it by just knocking doors and raising good money. As I'm sure folks have seen, I've outraised my opponent significantly. I think that's a huge component, right? Because that's a legitimacy factor. It's like, who can actually get out there and get the resources? And my resources have come from a lot of small donors, and it's also from all walks of life, from a very, very broad spectrum of support. Scott, what I bring is the most broad support base of anybody in this race. I have labor unions behind me, like the carpenters and the iron workers. I got the heavy construction association as well, the heavies. I also got businesses behind me. I got the Kansas City Chamber of Commerce BizPac supporting me, the Downtown Council, which represents the civic and business community. I also got leaders such as Jason Kander and Sly James and other folks, and folks on the city council, Kevin O'Neill and Daryl Curls. I got Freedom Inc. and La Raza really bringing together that black-brown coalition. So my diverse coalition of support is, I think, what's going to carry me through this race, because this is a very diverse district. It's the heart and soul of Kansas City's civic and business and arts and culture hub. And we need someone that understands and leads from deep understanding, but also brings that neighborhood level engagement, as well as that coalition of support that's broad, that's representative of this entire district. And I'm the only candidate in the race that brings that type of diversity to this race.
Well, do me a favor. If you see Senator Curls, tell her I said hello. Her favorite hillbilly wishes her all the best from Jefferson City still. And thank you for joining us. I sure appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, Scott. Really appreciate it. Hope to hear from you soon.
You bet. Take care. It's Pat Contreras running for Senate. Big shoes to fill, replacing Cinder Razor in the 7th. We'll be right back. One of my favorite segments of the summer. We're going to talk to Jason Moore, the director of the Missouri State Fair, after this.
You know, Missouri farmers have been doing what's best for their land for generations. After all, no one knows what it takes to feed and fuel a growing global population better than they do. So why are trial lawyers threatening Missouri farmers' best defense against weeds? Our farmers don't need to be controlled. They need to be supported. Keep glyphosate in our state. Show your support at TakeControlMissouri.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Missouri farmers.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back. This week in Missouri Politics, we are joined by the director of the State Fair, Jason Moore, your first one. Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics.
Well, thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
So your first year actually running the show, it's got to be exciting.
It's super exciting. It's been there since 2007, but this is my first fair kind of behind the driver's seat. So looking forward to seeing it from this view and not really the behind the scenes what I've been doing in the past.
I've always wondered how the director keeps his phone charged at the fair, but he's needing something, always details. But it's one of the great traditions of our state. I'm not sure there's anything that really brings Missourians together quite like the State Fair in Sedalia does.
I would agree. I think our theme this year really keys off a tradition. Summer's best story. I think when people come to the fair, you leave there with a story. Sometimes it's a funny story. Sometimes it's a wholesome story or a family story. But we really pride ourselves with traditions and family and here at the fair. So
it's almost, I remember, gosh, it was 6 years ago now. Governor Parson didn't have a traditional inauguration. His inauguration really was at the State Fair.
Right.
And seeing folks from that part of the state see one of their own become governor of Missouri, and a person that understood and really loved the fair, this is his last one. It's almost a bittersweet bookend to a wonderful chapter of Missouri history.
It's going to be a little surreal for him. I got to believe. I remember his first fair. I remember him saying, because he had camped at the fair for years, and I remember him saying, we'll be back here and we'll be camping, and you're kind of like, you bet, boss, and you're thinking, yeah, you're probably not camping during the 11-day fair for at least the next 8 years anyway. Yeah. So, looking forward to seeing him this year, and I'm sure he'll spend all the time he can with us.
Yeah, I think he's a governor that'll be back. I really believe that. Tell folks about yourself. Where are you from?
So I was born and raised in Saline County, Missouri, Marshall, Missouri. Still live there today with my wife, and so the opportunity for myself to come to work at the fair came up in 2007, and I kind of fell into it. I grew up obviously going to the fair year round.
Cool job.
Yeah, it's a great job. And to be honest, when I started, I didn't even know it was a job. So
sure.
You learned a whole lot in a short amount of time, and I continue to learn every day from our team, both at the Department of Ag and the team I work with there at the fairgrounds.
It is an amazing thing. I take my son Gussie every year. My daughter Gussie and I have our traditions of our corn dogs and which race we ride and where we go. We kind of have our loop already planned out of how we're going to go through the different exhibition things.
Right.
I've had memories there with my son Gussie that I'll never forget.
That's outstanding. That's what we're here for. People always ask me, what's your favorite part of the fair? And that's the hardest question for me to ever answer.
Yeah.
There's so many different parts and pieces that make it go. So, yeah, we're glad families like you continue to be here.
See, to me, I love a day with the kids to go ride the rides. It's 1,000 degrees. The food is awful for you, but as you can tell, I don't mind a bit.
Right.
Get to go. You start off the day with a little bit of milk there at Farm Bureau and go around. And then I like a day where I can go listen to some music and hit that. There's a great Budweiser beer tent that's wonderful to go to. I got a buddy, Sean Foster, that's got a tent a little further down.
Right.
You can have a great time with your family, and you'd have a great time, period. I saw a couple acts, though, that jumped out to me. Obviously, Ludacris. I don't think some folks would have thought that was a Missouri State Fair concert.
He's selling well, so if you're interested in tickets for Ludacris, I'd jump on it right now. But no, he'll put on a great show, I think.
And then, how about you've got Alabama coming? What an awesome thing!
What's a state fair without that classic country?
Absolutely.
Alabama's probably been at the fair, I don't know, a half a dozen or more times over the years, but they still put on a great show, and they're outselling everybody right now. So.
Well, I mean, it makes me feel old, but there's only so many times we're going to get to see Alabama, right?
Yeah, very true.
I mean,
very true.
Well, but I don't know I can think of a group that has as many hits as they do. That's just going to be a fun night.
It's a greatest hits record. It's their whole album when they get to go, and so they'll put on a great show and kind of wind the fair down, I think that'll be awesome.
So there's always the ham breakfast. For folks watching this show, the governor's ham breakfast is a staple on the political calendar.
Certainly.
It brings out everybody. You ain't running for office in Missouri if you ain't at the governor's ham breakfast. This year, I think it'll be kind of special because I can't remember a governor. I think Governor Nixon cared about the fair and enjoyed it, but it's a special thing with Mike Parson being from down the road in Bolivar. His last governor's ham breakfast. It's going to be a little bittersweet that day, I think.
I think you're exactly right. The ham breakfast is probably one of the events in my 17 years there that I was probably attended in the least because of the hours that it starts. You're kind of out putting on making sure everything's running and operating. So I try to poke my head in there every now and again and have had that opportunity. But this year I'm looking forward to being there for the duration and shaking hands with the governor at his last ham breakfast as governor. I'm sure he'll be back in the future as well.
I actually think he'll be one of the governors that returns for these events.
Wouldn't doubt.
Well, it helps that he's just down the road, right?
Certainly.
That helps over some, but I just think that state fair has a special place in his mind and in his history.
It certainly does. Certainly does.
So let's talk about some other stuff. Exhibitors, I think it's a very underrated thing how many kids around this state have taken a prize, some kind of animal, and exhibited at the state fair. Is the deadline too late to get in?
It is for livestock entries. That ended on July the 8th. However, if you're wanting other things to enter on the fairgrounds, I'd urge you to go to mostatefair.com. All those are they're variable dates. Some of them end sooner than others, but certainly our youth at 4-H and FFA exhibitors are, they're the heartbeat of that fairgrounds, and agriculture is the future, I think. So.
And the grandstand's always going to be fun. From those concerts, I'm sure there's a race. CFM has stepped up this year in a new way. They're helping, I guess, put on some of the grandstand activities.
They're a huge sponsor for us at the CFM grandstands. One of the things I think you'll get to see at the grandstand this year and overall across the fairgrounds, August 8th, 9th, and 10th, after each concert, we're going to have a drone show in conjunction with some fireworks. Fair's never done a drone show, so we're going to have about 200 drones up in the air.
It's almost like a fireworks show, right? With drones, am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. They get really creative. They can do a lot of things with sponsor logos and then kind of play it into fair scenes. But
we're going to have Farm Bureau Day, MFA, if I recall. Co-ops have a day.
Yeah.
It is. If you look on the calendar, you've got it. But before most kids go back to school, I know Blair Oaks, our kids will be. Are fortunate enough, we'll get to go to the fair first.
Right.
It's always a fun thing, and it is truly one of the events that brings Missourians together. Thank you so much for joining us and talking a little bit about it.
I appreciate you having me.
Jason Moore, we'll see you at the fair.
See you at the fair.
And we will see you here next week for This Week in Missouri Politics.
This Week in Missouri Politics is sponsored by the Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, Ameren, Spire, and the United Electric Cooperative.